The Guild is Maximum Lawyers' community of legal entrepreneurs who are taking their businesses and lives to the next level. As a Guild member, you'll build relationships, be held accountable, and learn strategies specifically designed to get you unstuck and accelerate your plan for growth. Members are also granted exclusive access to masterminds hosted around the country. Our next event is coming up, and we're heading to Scottsdale, Arizona. There's something truly magical about the power of these in-person connections where real-time breakthroughs happen. Picture this. You're surrounded by like-minded law firm owners tackling your business and mindset challenges together. The energy is electric, the insights are transformative, and the results are game-changing. Investing in yourself is the best decision you'll ever make. The knowledge, strategies, and breakthroughs you'll gain are priceless assets that will supercharge your practice and propel you forward. Join the Guild and secure your ticket to Scottsdale at the best possible price by visiting maxlawevents.com.
There's two schools of thought, which is 95% of people have a scarcity mindset, that there's a limited resources for everyone and you just have to grab what's yours. Then there's the abundance mindset, which is maybe less than 5% of people, but that's that there's more than enough for everybody. There's more than enough cases, clients, and money. And it's just a matter of trying to expand our universe and blow things up as big as we can.
Run your law firm the right way. This is the Maximum Lawyer Podcast. Your hosts, Jim Hacking and Tyson Mutrux. Let's partner up and maximize your firm. Welcome to the show.
You're back on the Maximum Lawyer Podcast. I'm Jim Hacking.
And I'm Tyson Mutrux. Hey, Jimmy, we have an awesome guest today. I know we've been talking about him for a long time now, and I think this is a great episode to start off the new year, 2017, with our first guest. Do you want to introduce him?
Yeah, so our guest today is John Fisher. He's a medical malpractice attorney from upstate New York. He has a very interesting practice and a very interesting referral system. We're going to talk about a lot of those issues today. John, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me. You guys are the best. I love your podcast.
Well, that's great, John. So, Tyson, I first came across John at Great Legal Marketing with Ben Glass, and we were both members of that group. And John competed in and won the Marketer of the Year that year. Right, John?
Yes.
And John is the author of a fantastic book that we've talked about on this show many times. It's called The Power of a System. And I happened to mention it to a couple friends the other day, and John very kindly jumped right in and sent them free copies of his book. The book is fantastic. It's, if anyone has a personal injury law practice or just a general practice, I think that it's fantastic for explaining how to run an office. John has very strong opinions on the way a law firm should work, and I just think it's a tremendous book.
Hey, thanks for saying that. And by the way, for anyone listening to your podcast, if they email me, they can get a free signed hard copy of the book. Or if they wanted it right now, they could get the ebook, and I'll give directions on how to do that.
That's great, John. That's very generous of you, and we appreciate that. I actually, the person that gave me the book, John, was actually Jim Hacking. Jim Hacking actually gave me that book. I read it. It's all marked up. It's got all my notes in it. And then I remember I called you, and this was a couple years ago. I was so surprised. I called you, and you actually emailed me a copy of the Word version because I want to create an office manual based upon the book, which I've done. And I want to thank you for that. It's a fantastic starter for actually making me my own personal firm guide, I guess, office manual, because that's how you can use it. You could actually take your book and use it as an office manual. So I want to thank you for that. I think it's a fantastic book.
Oh, of course. I mean, this is the biggest mistake lawyers make, is they want to hoard all of the information and knowledge that they have. And I think that's an enormous mistake. I think you really need to try to give as much as you possibly can. And the truth of the matter is it comes back tenfold. So whatever you give, you'll get back 10 times. And so that's sort of the philosophy that I have, and I've tried to do that. And really, for me, the book is the best thing I've ever done.
John, have you read The Go-Giver?
Yes, that's a great book by Bob Berg, yeah.
Yeah, so it's the same principles. The more you give back into life, the more you'll receive. So it's really, and that's not the whole thing of the whole book, but that's a big part of it is giving more back into life than what you take out of it. So I think that's a great philosophy to live by.
Oh, that's a great book. It's about a 1 hour read, and it's just it's a story, and it's a story about somebody who gives and pays things forward And what a great lesson in life that is, because everybody's trying to take, I've seen something recently where someone said, make sure whatever deal you have with somebody, it's a 50-50 arrangement. You're getting 50% back for what you're giving. I'm like, that's ridiculous. Give 100% and don't ask for anything in return, and you'll get paid back a fortune.
I've become convinced that there is plenty of work around for all of us, that when you operate from this mindset of being closed off and competing with everybody, I am absolutely comfortable with giving away all of my best information. Tyson and I both presented at a CLE last week with attorneys who are in St. Louis. I'm sure some of them are in the exact same practice areas as Tyson. And we both just gave away freely of everything that we have. And I'm not scared at all about, people taking what I offer or what I give away. I'm a big believer on distributing as much information as possible, and I have no problem sharing it, because I honestly believe there are plenty of cases, plenty of clients, and that if you operate from that open mindset, you're really going to strike a chord with certain people. And there are attorneys that are right for every client, and I'm not right for every client, so I have no problem with just offering what I offer and letting the chips fall where they may.
Well, Jim, you hit on a concept which is really, there's two schools of thought, which is 95% of people have a scarcity mindset, that there's a limited resources for everyone and you just have to grab what's yours. Then there's the abundance mindset, which is maybe less than 5% of people, but that's that there's more than enough for everybody. There's more than enough cases, clients, and money. And it's just a matter of trying to expand our universe and blow things up as big as we can.
John, I think that's actually a great segue into sort of what we're going to talk about today, and actually sharing ideas and having that abundance mindset. You do something called the Mastermind experience that Jim and I have both been to. A lot of attorneys, very, very successful attorneys that have been to. And I remember whenever I went to it last year, I remember looking in the room and seeing all these successful people and thinking, man, I am in the wrong room. It was great, because all these people that are far more successful than I've been to this point. And it was fantastic. It was a great experience. So can you kind of talk about how you got into doing the Mastermind and sort of where that originated?
Well, the way where it originated was Infusionsoft. I'm a huge fan of that, as I think you both know. And I was at one of their annual events. Somebody on the executive team of Infusionsoft said, John, we have this very elite mastermind, and it's just a small group of people from all over the country. They're almost entirely internet marketers, guys who are just kicking butt. I mean, unbelievable. And I without even saying it, I said, look, I am in. I don't care what the price is, I'm in. And so I flew out there. I spent 2.5 days with the owners of Infusionsoft, Clay and Scott, and their executive team, and about 25 people from South Africa, Australia, Great Britain, all over the world, some from the United States, but probably only a handful. And that 2.5 days, I was immersed in guys who are multimillionaires, some of whom are 25 years old. And I was thinking, this is unbelievable. And I came back home and I said to my wife, this was the greatest 2.5 days that I've ever spent. And she said, well, how much did it cost? And I said, it doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. And finally, I told her it was $10,000. And she said, are you kidding me? For a seminar, $10,000? And I said, that is the greatest investment I have ever made, because we invest in ourselves. When you go to an event, whether it be a mastermind or a CLE where you're giving stuff away, you're growing. Every day you're growing. Because once we stop growing, we're dying, basically. And so in my mind, that's where the concept for a mastermind came from, which is surround yourself with the highest achieving people you can possibly find and immerse yourself and learn as much as you possibly can. Because the mastermind that we do together is something that I learn so much from these other people, because I don't make any money from it. I just immerse myself. I learn. We have a great time, but we learn from each other. We learn from each other's mistakes. We had Mitch Jackson on last time, and I know, Jim, that really resonated with you. But Mitch is somebody, I see all the stuff he's doing. I'm like, man, if I could ever get to that point, that would be really cool. And he just gives everything away and shows us how to do it. So it's really cool. But one thing I want to share with you, that's how the concept originated, was this mastermind that I joined at Infusionsoft, and things like that. And just this last Wednesday, I was at a mastermind in New York City by a friend named Peter Shankman. And I was there, and most of the people there, very nice people, small business owners, modest incomes. And we go through this thing, and I can't begin to believe how limiting their belief systems were. Like they were, for example, they're like, if I can make $100,000 this year, I'm just going to be so happy. And I'm like, are you kidding me? You should be going for $1 million. This is ridiculous. And they were all looking at me like I had three heads on. And I was thinking, you know what? The bottom line with the mastermind is that you want to surround yourself with people who are not the mediocre average. You want to surround yourself with people who are knocking it out of the box, people who are just blowing up the world. And if you do that, that's the power of a mastermind, because you're leveraging their mistakes, failures, and successes, and you're able to use those for yourself. And so instead of making the same mistakes, you take it to the next level. And you know, one story I want to share. Tony Robbins once was on stage and someone came to him, another speaker, and they said, Tony, I don't get it. I just gave the same speech you did, and yet you're making $10 million a year and I'm making $1 million. What's the difference? We're both doing the same thing. And Tony Robbins said to him, who are you hanging out with? And the guy said, I'm hanging out with other people who are making about $1 million a year. And Tony said, well, that's your problem. You need to hang out with people who are making $10 million a year, just like me. And that's the way you'll become an 8-figure guy. And I totally believe in that concept. The more we can surround ourselves with great lawyers like both of you, and believe me, the stuff you guys are doing is incredible, because I see all the video and it's just way beyond what I'm doing. And I think, man, I'd love to do this Monday morning Q&A like Tyson and all, Jim, all the stuff you're doing on video. It's just giving away your secrets. I mean, you guys totally get it. And in our mastermind, there's some people who come and go, and really it's a one-day event and they leave. And then there's guys like you who are like, you know what? We are going to take this to the next level. We're going to immerse ourselves and we're going to be active in the group. And you're the reason why the mastermind is a big success, in my opinion.
I love that quote that if you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room. And that totally goes along with everything that John was saying. I think Tyson and I have been in mastermind groups before, and there are definitely people who get it and there are people who don't get it. And I think that when you try to bang your head on the wall to try to convince people that they need this or that this is something of value, that you're just not going to be able to pull it off. There's going to be way too much resistance, way too much BS that they tell themselves, way too many negative messages, and that you really, I'm not saying that everyone has to be smarter than you, but I think you definitely want a good balance of people who you can run things past them, they'll hold you accountable, and they can tell you what their own experiences have been. The mastermind group the experience that I went to, the most recent one that you had, John, in Chicago, I thought we had a pretty good balance of people, and there were some people who were very resistant to what the rest of the group was saying, and then there's some people who were sort of all in. And so it's intimidating to go to a mastermind group and to try to expose yourself and to sort of say, this is what I do and this is what's working and this is what's not working. But unless we do that, unless we put away that facade that says, oh, everything's great, business is great, I'm so busy, I'm so heavy, I'm such a heavy hitter, that, you know, unless you're willing to be honest and open with no BS, then I really think you're not going to get much out of it.
Yeah, totally. One of the things that I struggle with is when people congratulate us on our success. And so, for example, Monday I had a meeting with our financial team, and the members of my law firm are involved in this. So I don't hide anything. I'm 100% transparent. All the numbers, the profit and loss, the balance sheet, they get all of that because I'm not hiding anything. I want them to know whether we're doing good or bad. And really, so we met with the financial team and they congratulated us. I've had 11 trials this year, which is just crazy, but they congratulated us on the year and they said, look, if you don't do anything for, quite a long time, you're fine anyway. And I said to them, my feeling on this was just go away. I don't need to hear crap like that, because that's getting me to the point where they're thinking you're satisfied with where you are. And once we get satisfied, we stop growing. So, I don't need to hear nonsense like that. I said, I need people who are saying, okay, this is where we're at right now, but we need to blow this up a lot bigger.
John, so I think as attorneys, it's almost ingrained in us to kind of pound our chest and beat our chest and talk about how great we are. And you're someone that better than most, definitely better than I am, about exposing your vulnerabilities and just kind of being open about things. I guess what allowed you to get over just the whole, I want to show everyone how great I am and really show your vulnerabilities? I mean, what allowed you to get over that resistance that most people have?
I don't know. It was a part of me realizes as a trial attorney that the way to win a trial is not a battle of popularity among the attorneys. Jurors don't care if they like me. That doesn't matter. What is absolutely essential to the success of trial lawyer is credibility, that every word out of your mouth is honest and it's truthful. And you're not exaggerating or lying anything, but critically important to that is that if you're able to share some vulnerability, some weakness, not just about yourself or about your case, and then the jurors look at this and say, okay, that's a real person. So like in my background, I worked at a firm for about 14 years and then got fired. One day they just said, hey, you're out. And this was June of 2010. And then I'm out on the street and I'm thinking, what am I going to do right now? I don't have a staff. I don't have anything. One thing I had, because I developed this early in my practice, was a base of great clients and great cases. So, but I had all these systems and policies in my mind. I didn't know what to do with them. So I put them all on paper. It took me about, 2 years, a year and a half. Everything goes on paper because you need to document your systems. There's two key ingredients to great law firm: people, which is a great staff, and processes. You need to document your processes and make sure they're done exactly the same way with every case.
John, how do you go about identifying good people for a mastermind group? What are the characteristics you look for? How do you vet them? And I know that it's important to you that we have a good mix of people. So how do you go about doing that?
Well, what we do is it's by application only. So we ask that they submit an application. And the reality is we try to set up a price point where it's going to discourage people who are struggling. You know, one of the great members of our mastermind group is Mike Campbell from Columbia, Missouri. He's a young attorney who's really probably about 5 years out of law school, and he's just totally kicking butt. It's unbelievable. And he'll come to me and he'll say, you will not believe how different my practice is today than it was a year ago. And I can't believe it. And we're not responsible for that. He is. He's the one who's taken action. And because there's a lot of people who come to our mastermind and they don't do anything. So what I'm looking for really is high achieving attorneys set a price point where it's not ridiculous, because I don't make any money off of it, but it's enough where somebody who's low achieving and low income is going to say, I just don't have that kind of cash. Because we really, not to be mean, but we really don't want that. We want somebody who's really doing incredible things with their practice. Like many of the members, we have very high achieving, some of the best personal injury lawyers in their market in Washington, D.C., in South Florida, across the country, San Francisco, guys who are just crushing it. And I go into these things, it's like, man, I can learn so much from these guys. And what I'm so excited about with you two is you do the same thing. Like I'm hearing all the stuff you're doing, and I'm like, that's incredible. I wish I could do what they're doing.
We appreciate that, John. So I guess, will you talk a little bit about just the logistics about setting up the actual mastermind? Because you do one, I think people can do something that's a lot more basic in their own area, but you do one that's a lot more complex. People come in from all over the country. So you talk a little bit about the basics of setting that up, the logistics, because you're right. I mean, you charge a very nominal fee, so it's not like you're making money on the thing. So you have to reserve hotels. You have to reserve spaces for it. I mean, you've got to set up you have landing pages set up for people to register and all that. Will you talk a little bit about the logistics of doing all that?
Well, yeah, it's really a Facebook ad campaign where I target lawyers mostly in the geographic region where the event will be held. So, for example, we have one coming up in February in San Diego, and we've targeted 3,000 lawyers who do plaintiff's personal injury and are in law firms of 1 to 3 lawyers. So that's the amazing part of Facebook ads. I'm a huge proponent of that. You can laser beam target who you want to reach with your ad, so you're not wasting your money on the rest of the world. So, for example, we've got 3,000 plaintiff's personal injury lawyers from small law firms within a 90-mile radius of San Diego. In that Facebook ad campaign, we set the budget. We also do a direct mail campaign to the same lawyers where we do a nice 16-page newsletter that explains the benefits. And we really get a very low response to the direct mail. I mean, the last event we had, it was, I don't know, maybe a few people signed up from that, but not many. And then what we do is a series of webinars. Webinar Jam is a phenomenal service. For $400 a year, you can not only they do all the stuff. They do send out all the email invitations, they record it, and you can replay the same webinar over and over again. So if I want to promote San Diego and then promote West Palm Beach, which is April 7th, we can play back the lawyer-to-lawyer referral-based webinar as frequently as we want. And the next webinar we're having is called Shark Tank for Lawyers, where we give them the experience of what a mastermind would be like on a very truncated basis. So it's about 45 minutes of, here's my problem, how do I solve it? Which is really what a mastermind is you come with your biggest problem, and then we try to solve it for you. Then it's up to you what you do with that information. But logistically, what we do is I reach out to all my vendors, and I try to get them to help promote and sponsor the event. So companies like TrialWorks, Advocate Capital, different companies that I work with, and usually they're more than willing to do it if I ask. And so it's a series of Facebook ads, direct mail, webinars, and sort of joint ventures with other companies. But the cost, I wouldn't say it's nominal, because it's $800. So nominal in my book would be more like $100 or $75. But the price point is just right to scare away people who are kind of average, because we really don't want that. But logistically, that's what's involved. We try to find the nicest places that we possibly can. So in San Diego, it's at Mission Bay, overlooking this gorgeous bay. And, I'm still working out all the details of that, but it's gorgeous places. We usually have a very casual dinner the night before, and then we have everything's included for the day, breakfast, lunch, and then a very fun dinner afterwards. It's one day, and I think from my point of view, the problem with many masterminds is they're 3 days. I can't take 3 days off for these things. And secondly, that they bring back the same people every time. That's a problem, because then you're going to get a regurgitation of the same information. What I had with the mastermind experience was what we had, because I consider you guys part of this, is we have an event where we bring in new people every time. So we're getting exposure to new ideas every single time. And there are some people who return, alumni. So we might have in Chicago, I think we had about half who are returning people from Chicago. And that was great, because we're able to see what their success is, and they want to stick with our program. That's the nicest compliment, that people from Chicago keep coming back. When really that's our base in Chicago. So logistically, it's a lot of work, but I do have all these people doing stuff. So most of it is outsourced. I just write the copy for the direct mail sales letter, and Facebook ad campaign is just, it pretty much runs by itself.
We're talking with John Fisher, medical malpractice attorney from upstate New York, about the Mastermind experience. And John, one of the things I really like about the group that you set up is the accountability that's sort of built in. And I love it when you jump on people and say, ideas are great, but what are you going to implement? What have you done? And I think one of the best ways that we hold each other accountable is through that Facebook group. I remember you started a 10-day video challenge, and that got me off on some tangent where I shot 30 videos in 30 days because I had to beat Tyson. So
nice.
Talk a little bit about accountability and sort of how that carries over after the Mastermind experience itself.
Accountability is everything. So if you go to a one-day event, whether it be a mastermind or a seminar, what good is that if you don't really actually do anything? So accountability and having someone kick your butt. And what I thought with our group is, let's say, because right now our group is small. It's a small group of really high-achieving lawyers. What if we can just kick each other's ass totally and say, okay, you said you're going to do this, but let's do a 10-day video, and let's post the video. And you were one of the few people who took me up on that challenge. I had another challenge where I said, let's get to our desired weight level. So it's not just professional, it can be personal. And we need to be better at focusing not just on our careers, but spending time with our family, getting our health right. Because if we're not healthy, what good are we to our families? And so I did a challenge for people. I didn't succeed at first, but ultimately I did. And I got to my desired weight. Everything was good. And there were probably about 5 other lawyers in our group who took me up on the challenge. And, I really don't know if they were successful, but I think they had some level of success. But accountability is everything. And I try to have a series of not just Facebook back and forth, but accountability phone calls where I get people involved in talking about their success. One of the greatest stories was one of our members. He talked to me about my book, and he said, you know what, I think that'd be good for a book. And now he has his own book, and he's giving seminars in front of hundreds of people about his book. How cool is that? I mean, that is awesome. I love to hear success, and the people in our group who are kicking butt are the people who I like to be around with the most, like you guys.
John, I think the accountability is the biggest part of it. I think, and the actual experience itself is amazing. And I'm going to ask you to talk about that in a second. But I think both of you are right. The accountability, the Facebook group is actually my favorite part of it, because you are able to hold each other accountable. We can all talk about things that work, things that don't work for us, because the discussion doesn't stop in the mastermind experience. It continues on as long as you're a part of the community. And I think that's the best thing you've created with the accountability is the community. The community is fantastic. But will you tell the listeners a little bit about what they get whenever they go to the mastermind experience, what it's like, what the actual experience is like at the mastermind experience?
Basically, what we ask you to do is some homework. We need you to come with the biggest challenge that you've got and spend about 3 minutes explaining what that is, the biggest issue that you have. So, for example, with me at the last Wednesday, I spoke and I said, look, I've got a medical malpractice. Everything's going great. But the profit margins are very slim because legal fees in New York State on medical malpractice are regulated and they're very low. And so, I was thinking, if I can delve more into catastrophic personal injury, which right now I'm not even there, and because those profit margins are huge, that's an issue that I need. Do I stay with my core value, which is stopping medical injustice, or do I try to expand into catastrophic personal injury law? And so it's that 3 minutes, and then you basically take the next 20 to 25 minutes you try to open it up to a discussion of all the other members and say, what do you think I should be doing? And they'll give you their ideas, recommendations, vendors, resources, everything. But that's just the tip of the iceberg, because really it's the value to people who attend is the rest of the day, not just your thing. You're hearing the problems other people have, what resolutions and solutions are being used for the other people, and it just opens it up. And not only that, you're making contacts. So if you go home and ignore it, the contacts are worthless. But if like you guys and I have maintained contact, and that's really cool, because I benefit from you. And you say, well, I mean, I see your Monday morning Q&A and I watch it. I'm like, that is so cool. The graphics are cool. And Jim has this video editor where he just shoots a video and he shoots it off to somebody and they do all the work for him. That's really cool. I mean, I learned from you guys. You guys know the analytics of your videos, like how many minutes people have watched this month. And I'm hearing that. I have no clue how to even do that. So I'm learning from you, and that's really the value. And so what we hope to do on this is have you come out of there with a plan for your biggest challenge. But if there's one thing that matters to me more than anything else is a legacy, that when we die, we leave this planet with others on this planet with something that they can use from us. And I'm really a big believer on that. And I know I'll go to these masterminds and I'll say in advance, think of your legacy when you're dead. What do you want people to remember you for? Because really, there's not too many people who are coming to our funerals. There's not many people who are going to cry at our funerals. But what is the legacy? And the legacy, like, for example, Steve Jobs, he said, I want to put a dent in the universe. How cool is that? Martin Luther King Jr., I have a dream. How big is that? We need to blow up our universes as big as we possibly can. But that, to me, that means leaving a legacy. And for me, the legacy would be to help young attorneys market and manage their own practice so that they can have their own practice. Because you know what? I've been practicing for firms. I've been making them rich, and I've done well too, but the fact of the matter is, for most of my career, I've made other people rich, and it's important that we do it for our family, not just for other people.
Well, John, I think you're well on your way to creating that legacy. I think you've already helped Tyson and I tremendously. It's been great having you on the show. We often say that we think this was our best episode yet, but Tyson, I think you'd agree that this was in fact our best episode yet.
Absolutely, and I want to reiterate what you just said. John, I really appreciate everything you've done for me, I think, and what you do for other attorneys around the country. I owe a lot of my successes to you, so I thank you for coming on the show. I really do, and we are going to have you give a tip for the week, but before we do that, Jimmy, you want to give your hack of the week?
Yeah, my hack is something that John and I talk about on Facebook every now and then, and that is just the 10 minutes of reading every day. And so starting off my morning reading a business book or a business entrepreneur's memoir, that's really helped me sort of focus and sort of become motivated. I picked up a new book yesterday, Tools of Titans by Tim Ferris, and I think it's going to have a lot of great tips. It's basically a collection of the best of all of his podcasts, and there are some great suggestions in there already. I'm just a little bit into it, but just reading 10 minutes every day at some point during the day takes us out of the immediacy of what we're doing, and it's been real beneficial to me.
It's really funny you said that, because I didn't know where that came from, because I've been reading, I thought it was 10 pages of a good book each day. And so ever since I'd heard that, I've been reading it. I didn't realize it had come from the Facebook page. So that's really funny that that's where that came from, because I've been reading Tools of Titans. Someone gave it to me as a gift a week ago. Fantastic book. So I think that that's a really, really good book. John, what do you have for us?
Yeah, I have to correct one thing. I don't think any of us came up with the 10 pages a day. That came from The Slight Edge. And the Slight Edge is really about making small incremental improvements every single day, striving with every decision that you make. You make hundreds of thousands of decisions every day, striving to become the best version of yourself with every decision that you make. And so the 10 pages a day came from the book, The Slight Edge, which is about the compounded effect of making small incremental improvements every day. But two things I just want to mention. For people who want a hard copy of my book, you can email me at the letter J, Fisher, Fisher, at fishermalpracticelaw.com. If you email me, I'll mail the hard copy book. It's about 312 pages. If you want the ebook, you can get it right now at John, John, then middle initial H, Fisher, Fisher, .cardtap, CARDTAPP.com. That is a mobile app that I have that has the book. It's free on the mobile app. But my tip really is for hiring. I just got done using Indeed.com, and I have to tell you, it was really good. Indeed.com. It got out my job advertisement for a paralegal to a very broad range of people. We got tons of resumes. Most of them were ridiculous, but we found somebody who was a human resource director for the NBA in Manhattan. And she came up here, she presented extraordinarily well. And even though she has very limited background in a law firm, I just came away overly impressed, and I said, "You've got the job." That's it. So, I didn't really follow all my systems, because I didn't do the computer testing, I didn't do the personality testing, but I saw somebody, and sometimes it's a snap decision. My intuition was telling me this is a perfect position. She wants to learn, she wants to grow, and she wants to get bigger than the job, which is really critical. I don't want to hire people who just want to be pegged into a little slot. I want people who want to blow up their world, are super ambitious. And when I find that person, you pay them whatever you can. But Indeed.com, if you want to get someone for your law firm, use Indeed.com, promote it with Facebook ads, and you'll be able to get a huge range. Within about 2 to 3 months, you're going to be flooded with resumes.
John, I agree with you. Sometimes things just click. Sometimes you meet the right person. They're the right person. You don't need to do all these testing. So I think that's a good point. I do want to make sure we plug before I get to my tip, I want to plug your Mastermind Experience website, mastermindexperience.com. That's where you can register for your Mastermind Experience. Now, your San Diego date has changed. It says the January date. What's the February date for San Diego?
It's Thursday, February 23rd. That's firm. And then there's an event in West Palm Beach, Florida on Friday, April 7th. So the Friday, April 7th, I know we've got quite a few people who have expressed an interest. Craig Gold, one of our members, is going to be it's at his law firm. He's going to show it, ultra successful lawyer in South Florida. He's going to show us everything about his practice, take us through everything. So a lot of people are very excited about Friday, April 7th. And here's the critical thing. We limit the mastermind to 15 lawyers because at first we did it with 18, 19. It was just way too many. And you can't get the value with that many people. So the last event we had, I think it was 14. And that was closer, but even then we were pressed for time. So it was closer, the right number, but you get a lot of one-on-one time with that small number of people. But mastermindexperience.com is where you can get information. If you want to register or apply, that's where you would do it. And San Diego, February 23rd, and West Palm Beach, Florida on April 7th.
And John, I know that I called it a nominal fee before. It's $799, but it's a nominal fee compared to what you get out of it. It's a great experience. This is not a solicited advertisement for the Mastermind Experience. This is a legitimate endorsement. I think it is a great experience. It's going to be a career changer for anybody that goes to it. But I do want to get to my tip of the week. It actually talks about it's about what we're talking about. It's the book Abundance, and it's by Peter Diamandis and Steve Kotler. It's a great book. It talks about a lot of the principles that we were talking about earlier today about the abundance principles. So I highly recommend that book. It's a great one. It'll really change your mindset. It'll get you into that 5% and out of that 95% thinking. So that's my tip of the week.
All right, with that, we'll wrap up the show. John, thanks so much.
Hey, thanks. You guys keep doing a great job. I love your podcast, and I listen to it religiously. So I learn a lot from you guys, and keep doing it.
Thanks, John. And I want to remind everybody to make sure to check us out on Facebook. Also, if they don't mind giving us a 5-star review on Apple and Google Play, and also share with other people. Again, John, thanks a lot. I appreciate it. We appreciate all the help you've given us and all the generosity you've shown all the other attorneys around the country. So
thanks for what you're doing. You guys are doing a great job.
I guess. See ya.
That was great. Thanks, guys.
Okay, bye-bye. Yep. Thank you.
Thanks for listening to the Maximum Lawyer Podcast. To stay in contact with your hosts and to access more content, go to MaximumLawyer.com. Have a great week and catch you next time.